Yeah, sure.
Perfect. Let's get the screen share going. There we go. All right, everyone, on behalf of SAVA, the Southern African Vinyls Association, a very, very warm welcome to each and every one of you. It's lovely to have you all here. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedules. We've got an amazing response of people who have confirmed and who are attending. I think on our last count, we had 9 different countries, 9 different time zones, all being here with us, some of them getting up 4 o'clock in the morning, late in the afternoon. So it just shows us that there's obviously a need for this. We're talking about something that I think there's a lot of questions about. It's an important conversation that we're having here today. And yes, on behalf of SAVA, thank you to all the presenters. Thank you to Dario, who's taking the time out to prepare his presentation, to come and share some of his expertise. Before we start with the presentations, just a bit of housekeeping in terms of the Zoom protocol. Please remember to mute your microphone. If you can and your bandwidth allows it, please keep your camera on. It really does help for communication and just to see some eyeballs and just to make a bit of contact if we can't be in a room together with each other. If you have questions, please make use of the chat function. A lot of you have already submitted your questions before the time, which we have sent through to Dario and to our other presenters for answering. But if questions do come up that you want them to answer, please send it through on the chat function. We'll write it down, and at the end, we're going to take all the questions and answers. We'll have allocate enough time for questions and answers after all the presentations, and we'll try to get through as many of the questions as possible. And then also just a reminder in terms of the Competition Commission that we are not allowed to talk about pricing, about any sensitive issues in terms of the Competitions Act of 1998 that we governed. It empowers the government to investigate, control, and evaluate restrictive business practices, abuse of dominant positions and mergers, etc. So just be careful what we talk about. We don't want to infringe on that legislation. And then just a rundown in terms of what the day's agenda and discussions are going to look like. Our new SAVA chairman, Debbie Munford, will do a brief welcome and introduction to our guest speaker before Dario goes directly into the benefits of cling film. Then George Diamond is going to touch briefly on SAVA's cling film compliance initiative, which was started a couple of months ago. I will briefly introduce and talk about the vinyl product label. Audrey will then touch on vinyl loop. And then, as I mentioned, we hope to allocate enough time for all your questions and answers. Then, without any further ado, Debbie, over to you to just say a welcome on behalf of SAVA.
Thanks, Monique. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much on behalf of SAVA for joining this webinar, taking the time, which I think one of the wonderful things that has come out of COVID is that we're able to gather in this way, which enables a lot more people to actually participate in something that's of great interest. So thank you very much for taking the time, and welcome to this morning's webinar. In line with SAVA's commitment to the PVC industry and also to product stewardship of PVC products, we're hoping that this webinar will assist in enabling you to make informed decisions about your products of choice, as it's vital in today's modern world where we are just constantly bombarded by a plethora of misinformation, fake news, and it's very hard to discern often what is real, what is fiction, what's fact. So the multitude of social platforms that we're exposed to and technology that we're exposed to makes it very difficult to often make informed and key decisions with regarding the products we make, the active ingredients, the raw materials we use. And I think it's important that a forum like this enables us to be exposed to the real information, the truth the facts and the science. And this certainly, we hope, will go a long way to making your decisions in whatever industry you're in easier and more accurate. So with that, I'd like to go straight into welcoming our guest speaker this morning, who we're very appreciative to have join us. Dario is currently the product manager for film in the Fabry Group. The Fabry Group is an industry leader worldwide in the sale of film, plain, printed, and also the services that go with that, whether it's machinery, software for fresh food packaging. Dario has a master's degree in organic and analytical chemistry. He has been in R&D on film technology and production manager in the PV industry for over 9 years. He was also a team leader and in the plant application engineering in the labels industry in Germany for 8 years, and an innovation engineer on labels in both PET and the PVC industry, also in Germany. So he comes with a wealth of experience in the field and the topic of conversation for this morning. So I'd like to hand over to him to share with us the information and questions that have arisen on this hot and burning topic of PVC film. So over to you, Dario. Thank you very much.
Dario, are you with us? Dario, are you muted? Let's see if I can find Dario. Dario?
Dario, I think you're muted. Are you muted? No.
He was there.
He was. He's still, I can see he's here. Just can't. Dario?
He is there, but the sound is not coming through.
Yeah. What should we do?
He was there, and it was, the connectivity was fine.
Stop his screen sharing, because then he's going to realize that we're not with him.
Okay. Stop share. Dario, good morning. We see your mouth moving, Dario. No, that's Anton.
Yes.
Okay, Dario is going to come back in. George, while we're waiting for Dario, I wonder if can I put George on the spot here? Maybe we can just quickly go directly on to explaining the SAVA's vinyl cling film compliance. This iPhone.
Morning, Monique. Can you hear me okay?
Sorry to do this to you.
Not at all. Do you want me to bring up my slides, or will you bring up yours?
I can bring it up. Then if you just bear with me, let me just quickly go to your. There's yours. Would you be all right? Maybe it's not a bad thing, George, if you can just give us a bit of a background and just sketch the background of today's topic.
Yep. Can you share the screen?
Yeah. I thought I was.
We're in the boardroom, myself and Des, if you want to come and watch the presentation.
Keegan, Keegan, can we ask you just to mute, please?
Don't worry, I'm muting him.
Oh, thanks.
Okay.
All right, are we there? Okay, maybe good morning to everyone. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Please, if I could ask you all to mute your mics. Let me just slip in here while Dario is working out his connection. Maybe the best is for him to exit. I have messaged him directly for him to exit and come back into the programs to reignite his voice. But let's move on to it swiftly. So the vinyl cling film compliance framework. So maybe just to, Monique said, just to sketch the background. Please could you all mute your speakers, your mics? Okay, so the background, cling film's been made in South Africa. I remember coming into the industry 36 years ago, and cling film was being successfully made in South Africa. And it's been made over all this period. It's PVC is a very versatile product. It's a useful product, and it has numerous day-to-day and household applications. Mostly we don't see it. It's behind doing its work. More recently, in recent years, there have, as Debbie alluded to, some myths, and there's been some reports emanating out of Pretoria about, and the reports were not correct, about products and migration of ingredients out of cling film, etc., etc. So our job was to put together a compliance framework to get the industry, the manufacturers, and everyone in the value chain to fall into a harmonized program that would work for South Africa. So what we did is we looked at some of the programs worldwide, and we thought the best program or most workable program is EU 10/2011, which regulates food contact, or the plastic materials which is used in food contact applications. So a lot of what we've adapted from for the vinyl compliance framework, cling film compliance framework, is adapted out of 10/2011 in Europe. We also referred and took references and data and documentation to work with the laws and regulations within South Africa, the Department of Labor, Department of Health, the Food Act, Act 26, FSA Food Act Codex, and of course our own voluntary SAVA voluntary commitments. The program was put together as a voluntary program run by industry experts and monitored and controlled from within SAVA. And it's designed for continuous improvement. It by no means is upfront a perfect document, but I think we've gone a long way since late 2019 at its inception to actually enhance it and develop it. The full document is available on the SAVA website, and I've showed the SAVA website there, and a PDF document is there for the framework. All the details are there in quite detailed information. Thanks, Monique. Next slide. So I'm doing some of the highlights. Taking a high-level picture at the framework. The vinyl cling film compliance framework, I'm going to call it VCCF from now on, applies to everyone in the value chain, raw material suppliers. So if you supply PVC, additives, etc., you're all part of this program. If you supply it into the cling film industry, you should be part of this program. Intermediate compounders, converters or full manufacturers, distributors, importers, wholesale and retail. Okay, so we've included the program to go right through to retail, and we hope, and I know Monique's going to work very hard with ARDRI to address all the issues with retail and government at the front end, at the coalface of where this whole thing, meets the market. So we, if we could have the next slide. Effectively, it's based on 3 or 4 substantive processes. Number one, everyone in the program, whether you're raw material suppliers, intermediates, manufacturers, you sign a declaration of compliance that all raw materials, intermediates, and substances used in the manufacture of vinyl cling film have been food approved. And you have to prove that on your documentation and data. You have to agree to comply with good manufacturing practices, whether that's an ISO or a provable, auditable manufacturing process. EU 10/2011 talks about a GMP, good manufacturing process, which traces everything from raw materials, data sheets, certificates of analysis, what batches are used, etc. To move on, agree in the use of correct and approved labeling codes together with intended use information. And I really implore the industry to get together and talk about the detail of the approved labeling codes. EU 10/2011 has some significant detail in terms of the labeling on the boxes, whether it goes into retail or wholesale of cling film, where it's used, how it's used, the most appropriate use for vinyl cling film, and have that labeling valid, up to date, and clear to all the users. To agree to have their products and documents at every level in the supply chain audited by an independent SAVA representative under a non-disclosure agreement. So as we've said before, we've appointed Jacques from Avesco to be our independent auditor. Those NDAs will encompass the senior executive of SAVA and Jacques in terms of non-disclosure. Thanks, Monique. The declaration of the compliance through the value chain will include things like, I have addressed some of it, but labeling of product packaging with special instructions on safe and appropriate use, and that the correct and approved labeling codes together with intended use information. Okay, so this will be on the declaration of compliance. Traceability and records of raw material batches, intermediate batches, and final batches within each film category. And that's whether it's industrial, wholesale, consumer, whatever it applies. If it's food contact, then this is the process. The company is operated under an auditable quality assurance and good manufacturing practice. That'll be audited by Jacques. He's a good auditor. He knows what he's talking about, and he's got the documentation for this cling film program already framed and ready to use. He's already audited one company, and he's about to start auditing the balance. All the products listed are supported by an approved TDS, technical data sheet, a material safety data sheet that is appropriate to the ingredients and the final product. Okay, there's a chat from Zia. We will share Jacques' details at the end of this program. Monique will make it available for sure, 100%. Thanks, Zia. The manufacturer is a member of SAVA and subscribes to SAVA voluntary commitments as detailed in Annexure B of the vinyl cling film compliance framework that is on our website. Compliance, now it's quite comprehensive. It talks about PVC, additives, etc. So we feel the members and on the manufacturers who are members have to comply to this to the voluntary commitments of SAVA, which are very similar to the voluntary commitments in Europe and the global vinyl global forum, final forum. So these are not sort of information we glean from within South Africa. A lot of these apply globally. Verification of specific and overall migration limits appropriate to vinyl cling film to have supporting documents can be audited and may include. So there's two phases of this program. The first phase is obviously to get the good manufacturing program audited by Jacques at Avesco. That'll be documentation, food approvals, all your data, etc. The second phase, which we will embark on later on this year, will be the testing of independent, both within the manufacturers and independent sampling of cling film throughout the country, which must be tested for things like contaminants, total migration into food. So then they pick a suitable template. It might be a lipophobic or lipophilic agent, and they'll determine how much migration there is in contact with, say, for example, vegetables, chicken, butter, etc., etc. And those data will be made available and part of the compliance framework. Internal commitment endorsed by all company HODs and quality audit managers within the manufacturing environment. Certificates of analysis and batch traceability, results of migration tests on overall migration and specific migration limits, and material composition. That's what I've been talking about. Toxicological information via TDS and MSDSs, and obviously that must come with a certificate of food approval. External verification of OELs must be done. And lastly, the approved alternate schedule, which can result in type testing. In other words, we're in a strange situation post-COVID where there's third or fourth order effects, where sometimes raw materials are not readily available. They haven't been shipped on time. The company might have an alternative. That alternative raw material must be approved, must be tested, approved, and must be part of the type testing results. Thanks, Monique. Well, that's in essence a high-level view of the compliance framework. I ask you all to look at EU 10/2011 because that encompasses more deeply and our compliance framework that's on our website. So from me, let's hope we can return. I hope Dario's with us now, and let's return to the program. Monique, if there are any questions, I'll stay online. If there are any questions, I'll be free to answer. Yeah.
Thank you very much for jumping in, George. We do appreciate that. Just as George mentioned, we will share Jacques van Eck's contact details for those of you who require that. Dario, are we going to try again and see if we can make contact now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you are live. Thank you so much. Are you ready for
Sorry for this line exception, but now I'm ready. Okay.
100%.
We can go with the presentation.
Sorry, close your eyes, everyone, so you don't see. There we go. Are you ready?
Okay.
Over to you, Dario.
Okay, so we start with the PVC stretch film. So the ideal way to wrap fresh foods. I think the use of PVC in food packaging is really the PVC is the ideal material to guarantee protection and natural shelf life and respect the nutritional and organoleptic properties of food, giving at the same time a refined look of the package when used in both in plain and printed form, as we can see on the slide on the right side of the slide. We have some points enhanced, so the mechanical properties. PVC cling film has excellent mechanical characteristics, such as extensibility and resistance to tearing and deformation. And this is very important on the final package. Polyolefin films can work as red film on fresh food, of course, but have lower mechanical properties than PVC. So they have less elasticity, lower resistance to deformation, and lower tensile strength. Another characteristic is the memory effect of PVC cling film that returns to its original shape after manipulation, and no stretch marks are visible on the package. This is very important for the appeal of the package on the shelf of a market. Polyolefin films have a minor memory effect, and this allows stretch marks on the package. So the look of the package after manipulation of polyolefin films can be a little bit worse than the PVC one. And also another characteristic is the permeability of the PVC film. PVC film has an high permeability for oxygen and carbon dioxide, and also water vapor. So the water vapor transmission rate is the unity of measure of this permeability. This high permeability is preventing the accumulation of moisture inside the package, with a positive effect on the shelf life of fresh foods and on the preservation of their nutritional and organoleptic characteristics. Polyolefin films have the same permeability values for oxygen and carbon dioxide, but have much lower permeability on water vapor. This is resulting in a less nice package and look. So some droplets of water can be seen on the surface of the package, and also this leads to a minor shelf life of the package itself. You can go to the next. Perfect. Here also some points where we enhance the PVC main benefits for food packaging. We have a cost-saving sustainable solution thanks to minimized packaging use. So the PVC is resistant and highly stretchable towards bolts and machine direction. Therefore, it can be used in a minimum quantity on the package. It can be stretched a lot and can be used in minimum quantities on the package. They have optimized productivity and on automatic machines. So the PVC is used normally on all most whispered wrappers on the market for an automatic, faster and optimized production than the manual one. We have limited using PVC. We have limited maintenance on the machine. So when compared to other polymers films, as polyolefin or other polymers, PVC involves considerable savings in terms of maintenance and spare parts replacement, diminishing the production environmental impact thanks to the minor traveling and manufacturing activities involved. Another benefit is the product long-lasting protection, thanks to first, no bacterial development. So PVC water vapor permeability, as said before, rate facilitates the evaporation of humidity produced by the food, the fresh food, out of the pack, keeping the food fresh and healthy for the shelf life of the package. We have a food respect, protection, and enhancement. So PVC allows a quite large window of sealing temperatures on the machine. The pack looks always nicely closed and protected against contamination. And this is also very important in this period of COVID. Is also ideal against food waste because the refined package look and the efficiency due to the PVC is when PVC is returning to its original status after manipulation. PVC ensures a perfect package look, especially when used in printed form. PVC can be more easily printed than PE films, and gives more appeal to the pack. And this pack would not remain unsold on the retail shelf, saving food from becoming a food waste. So this is also one of the main benefits. PVC film have also excellent optical properties, and such as transparency, haze in technical terms, and gloss, due to the amorphous structure of the PVC polymer. Two studies conducted in 5 European countries, including Italy and France, revealed that stretch film on fresh meat are perceived as being more environmental friendly due to the smaller amount of packaging material used per package. They also revealed that the end customer choice is geared towards a packaging that improves the quality and freshness of the meat, as more appealing, and this is exactly what PVC does, as I said before. Here we find, in this slide, we find a visual comparison of PVC against the polyolefin package. And we have in the pictures on the left side always PVC, and on the right side always polyolefin film. And the first line shows the product at the starting time, so T0, when they are freshly packed, and the second line shows the product after 5 days. So in the funnel we see slightly the appearance of the product in the polyolefin side is more widthed. On the red meat, and we also, in this comparison, we also used 3 different kind of tray, just to be independent from the tray shape. On the red meat, packed in EPS tray, after 5 days, we see a very big difference on the color of the meat, and this is due to the different permeability of PVC film against polyolefin. And on fresh mushrooms, on the third row, in cardboard tray, we can see that with the PVC film, after 5 days, there is no brown appearance on the mushrooms, but on the polyolefin film, it starts to the mushroom starts to become a little bit brown. So we can see brown spots on the mushroom surface. This is a kind of comparison table on of PVC against the polyolefin films. And after this visual evaluation, and also after the evaluation on the machinability and our experience as a provider of machine and films, we compare the PVC and polyolefin films, and we can see that on the product shelf life, package appearance, machinability, and machine maintenance, the polyolefin films are slightly worse than PVC films. On the mechanical properties and on the price, they are a little bit lower as a performance, but not so far from the PVC. Okay, this is one of the last questions. Just to say in brief why using PVC in fresh food packaging. So we can look at the health and safety. So PVC preserves freshness and the nutritional and organoleptic properties of food, protecting it from any kind of contamination. We fight against food waste. So PVC is stretchable, transparent, glossy, and printable. PVC helps fighting against food waste through appealing by me food packages, and that don't remain unsold on the retail shelves. And the performance, thanks to its high mechanical resistance, PVC can be easily used in automatic production, allowing to have less maintenance cost and long-lasting nice packages. I think from my side is everything for the moment.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Dario. I'm sure I've seen some of the questions come through, which we will deal with towards the end. If you can bear with me, I'm quickly going to just briefly talk about SAVA's vinyl dot cling film, the vinyl dot product label. George, sorry, I'm just skipping over yours. Okay, so just to fill in the details and just to give you the whole perspective and sketch the whole picture, when we talk about cling film, SAVA launched the vinyl dot product label officially in 2019. It is a product label which we award to our members free of charge. But it is awarded annually, and you'll see there is a year to the right of the logo. So just to show that every year this label is awarded. It's not once you get it, you automatically get it the next year. And what this on-pack label signifies is that the product where this label is shown, where this product label is shown or was used, that this product adheres to SAVA's product stewardship commitment to our PSC. So the PVC product carrying this quality mark is lead-free. It uses only additives that have been approved for high human contact applications, and that it supports a circular economy. In essence, that is what SAVA's PSC is all about. So the SAVA members, whenever you see the vinyl dot, and this is really for our retailers, and we, as George mentioned earlier, that we want to spend a lot of time and effort educating the market about the vinyl dot and to be on the lookout for that, because the SAVA members, when you see this product label, the idea is that you'll know that the member has the right to display this product label, and it sets them apart from their competitors. They've gone through the motions, they've proven themselves, the product has been tested. It makes it easier for buyers and specifiers to identify their PVC products and clearly identifies who SAVA members are. And if you see this product, you know that the product has been tested, that it meets the criteria, as we mentioned earlier. It subscribes to SAVA's to the association's industry waste management plan, and that it demonstrates extended producer responsibility. Just some examples of where you might see the vinyl dot. We're talking from household furnishings and furniture, flooring, window frames, water pipes, lampshades, conduits and cabling, living room furniture. You will see it on packaging. Here is an example of pharmaceutical packaging, blister packs, etc. IV bags, blood bags, tubing, oxygen masks, clothing, shoes, raincoats, umbrellas, belts. Look out for the vinyl dot. And then, of course, here, when we're talking about cling film today. And you will see at the bottom just who the current SAVA members are, who have the right and have been awarded the vinyl dot. We've got Impact, SAVA Pack, Food Packaging, Easy Pack, and Strand Group Main Wrap. And they're all here with us. I don't know if they quickly just, if you want to have the contact details or if you want to connect with them afterwards, please let us know and we will be happy to connect you with them. Okay, Audrey, and then I'm going to stop screen sharing and I'm going to hand over to you.
Great, thank you, Monique. Just jumping into my presentation mode. There you go. Morning, everybody, and thank you, Monique and SAVA, for this opportunity today to speak about the vinyl loop. Maybe for those of you who don't know and are totally confused as to what's happening here, what we've looked at is over the last few years, I've been involved as this, I was the CEO of SAVA, and but what we found is we spent most of our time and energy really on the EPR regulations, which are now in full force and taking all our time and effort. So what we decided and what the board decided at SAVA is to split the two associations so that the vinyl loop can really focus on the EPR regulations, ensuring that our industry is really complying, to these regulations, and that SAVA would continue the very important work that you've heard all about in the last nearly hour. So SAVA will continue to do the work they do as far as PSCs are concerned and representing the whole industry. And for those of you who also don't know, is that vinyl in packaging is a very small part of the whole industry. So we do find that only a few companies are really, or members are involved with the packaging side, and the SAVA side is much more piping, cabling, and the few things that Monique has actually gone through. So what happened, I just want to move everybody, my goodness, these little things. So actually, I'm going to do that. Then now you won't see us. There you go. So if you have a look at the EPR regulations over the last few years, as I said, we've been working towards this as a packaging industry in South Africa with the Government Department of Environmental Affairs, putting forward this EPR Gazette, which is the Extended Producer Responsibility Regulation. So if you look at the timeline, the important timeline right now to know is that on the 5th of May, which was last month, the regulations have come into effect, obligating our industries to adhere to these regulations, and we have 6 months to comply, meaning by the 5th of November, we must comply with the whole regulations. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail today because it is quite a hefty document to digest, but the bottom line is that we have 6 months to write our EPR plan. So the burning question over the last question was, now who needs to sign up and who needs to pay? So the definition of producer became obviously really important. So what has transpired out of the regulations really is that every brand owner, retailer, converter, importer, and I said brand owner and retailer, everybody is responsible. And everybody must belong to a product responsibility organization, which must be a non-profit company. This does not mean that everybody's going to pay. So the whole thought behind it is really that only one point in the whole value chain will pay towards this scheme or this EPR plan. We don't want to double invoice, and we don't want to just create, a double payment schedule, but everybody's responsible, meaning that you as a producer, meaning that let's say you are a mass mart, for example, or a brand owner or retailer, you have a mandatory take back written into the EPR regulation. So you will take part in the whole process and work with us in developing a plan, but the payment will probably only be at converter level. This is just hypothetical. So at this point, this is what we are discussing. As a producer, you do have the opportunity to either join a PRO or run your own scheme. So you are not obligated to join a PRO, but you can have your own scheme, but it does mean that you need to adhere to all these same regulations as a PRO-led scheme would do. So the PRO-led scheme, I'm just going to go through that, and Monique will make all these presentations available to the group, I'm sure, afterwards, is that as a PRO, we need to allocate funding to implement the scheme. We need to ensure that the EPR scheme is audited. It's a very strict auditing system. We need to collect data and submit it to the Environmental Affairs, which has a thesauric website. We need to contract collection and identify products where external services are required, keep record of quantities of identified produce placed on the market, collected, sorted, and recycled. And that sounds wonderful, but it's really quite complex. So now you can understand why we need two entities in this environment. We need to cooperate with municipalities, of which there are 270 in the country, to increase the collection of the identified product. We need to integrate the informal waste collectors. We need to establish secondary markets and compensate the informal waste collection. What you also need to know is that all the PROs for all packaging streams, paper, glass, cans, and all plastics are working closely together so that we are in a position that we can share some of these items that needs to be checked on the EPR regulation list. If you look at the vinyls recycling in South Africa currently, we are in year 1, which will be 2021 to 2022. We are on a collection rate of 6% and our recycling rate is on 5%. And you can see this is really quite low. So we're starting really off a very low base, because the recycling of vinyls has not really been done countrywide or broadly in South Africa, if we're talking specifically also about packaging. So if you look at the few years in advance going forward, these are the regulations. The EPR regulations have these targets and they have been approved by government. So even though it looks like a small amount, there is a huge amount of work that needs to be done to ensure that this does happen. So if we look at the timeline, as I said, 5 November is D-Day. We have put forward 100 Rand a tonne levy for members at this stage, just to put towards the writing of the plan. So it's really important that companies or producers do join at this point, because this will give them an opportunity to be part of this whole process. So if we look at step 1, we need to target packaging producers, importers, brand owners to join. We need to write the plan that will adhere to the EPR regulations. We need to engage with all relevant partners. And then by 5 November, we need to start implementing our plan. If you look at packaging, I'm not going to talk a lot about this because you can see, Dario has spoken a lot about where the items are in the market, and Monique has also covered quite a bit of that. But this is obviously the cling film is the most prominent one that most people know about. But I think the ones that we don't necessarily always know is often when sheets and blankets, etc., are imported into the country, it does come with the PVC or vinyl packaging around it. This is a very valuable material. So if we can get our collections and our recycling and collections done and beneficiation done, we will be able to get this material and get it recycled. Also, if we look at if you're going to your builder's warehouse or your Build It, you'll find a lot of the packaging is from vinyls, and then also clothing or your bathroom kind of items will also often be packaged in it. Then there are still a few rigid items in vinyls. It's not everywhere. It is quite a small market. So it is going to be difficult to get to this material, but we do believe that we can make a difference. We'll make an effort to address these issues where we can. The bigger markets is definitely more tamper-proof items, more display items, blister packs. The industry, the medical industry has quite a lot of PVC packaging in it, and then blister packs and other packaging in your daily bath, toothbrush, etc. So as you can see, there is quite a lot in the industry, but as I told you, or mentioned previously, if you look at the market, it is not, the packaging market is not huge. And that 2% is really the packaging market. So of the total packaging or market in South Africa, the packaging market is really a small number. But then we have not looked at what's imported. And this is where a lot of the work and effort is going to go in over the next 6 months, is to find out where it is. If we're looking at recycling, though, we are in a very fortunate position in South Africa that we do have very well-established end markets, mostly going into flooring, shoes, gum boots, cabling, piping, etc. So we have a very good demand for the product, which is brilliant. It's wonderful to have a demand for a product, but now we need to get it to these markets. They have a demand for it, but we need to get it to them in in a way that they can use it, because obviously post-consumer separation at source is important, and we don't want the food contaminants around. So if we look at the whole value chain and the process, we have collections, and this is the whole separation at source issues that we need to address. And this is the whole value chain that we need to look at from a vinyl loop and EPR regulations perspective. Where is the domestic waste? How is it collected? Are the waste pickers involved? Where are the small waste pickers, the larger companies? How do we transport it? How do we get it to the recycler? And is it a sustainable market? So these are really questions that we need to go and work on and address. If we have a look at existing markets, as I said, there are sufficient existing markets. We do recycle, we do pelletize, and it is sufficient at this stage, but we do need to really invest and look at opportunities of wash plants, how to remove the labels, how to densify, how to separate from the PE, and collections. How do we get to the material? And please don't think that we are the only ones with this problem. Absolutely all other forms, all other packaging have exactly these same obstacles or things we need to overcome in the next 6 months. So yes, thank you very much for your time. And if you can please help us to get there and bring all your expertise, we'll be very glad to work together. Thanks, Monique.
Thank you very much, Audrey. And thank you for that detailed description and explanation. I must say a lot of the questions that we have been receiving deal specifically with the issue of the recyclability of PVC. And as you rightly said, it's not only an issue that we are facing, it's a worldwide issue that we're grappling with. If it's all right with you, I'm going to just raise some of the questions. I know some of the answers have come through on the chat, but maybe not everyone has seen it, and maybe we want to give a bit more detail to the answers. The first question that we got from Rena was, is PVC cling film recycled in South Africa? So Dario and Audrey, I think both of you can answer this, and we've got Annabi Pretorius of Plastics 911 on standby as well. She's Mrs. Plastic. So whoever wants to take the floor, could you talk to us a little bit more about the issue of the recyclability and of PVC cling film?
Okay, I start. Could I start? Okay. This is one of the main topics always talking about PVC cling film. So if we ask that if PVC cling film is recyclable, we have to say yes. If it's recycled at the moment, we have to say in just a little bit. So the main issue is to create PVC fraction in the handling of the waste, of the public waste. At the moment, PVC is not recycled as well as the polyolefin cling film because they are a little bit too difficult to separate. But I think the good news is that some of the recyclers that we are working with have started a project to create a new PVC fraction out of their actual PVC, out of their actual fractions that they are separating. So the most used and famous one that are PET, for example, LDP, rigid LDPE in bottles, polypropylene, also PET colored, so separated to the PET, and they are creating a PVC fraction. And the good news is that is technically feasible. So the actual technology allows us is an NIR detector that can detect every kind of polymers. So basically, they are set to detect PET or polypropylene or other polymers. And our partner demonstrate that setting the reader to the PVC, they can isolate and create a PVC fraction. And the next step of this project is to create an end use of this PVC fraction. We are also working with some partners that are recycling PVC. The only thing we have to underline is that at the moment, the European law does not allow the use of post-consumer recycled PVC or material in food contact films. So what we can predict also for the near future is to create, so we have the technical ability to separate the PVC and create a PVC fraction. We have to find a good use for this PVC fraction that most likely is not in a food packaging application, but is in the PVC recycling industry application, more on the rigid side. So tubes, PVC cables, window frames, flooring, etc. So I think recycling PVC is possible, is also something that is going to happen. At the moment, PVC is one of the main polymers recycled, but not on the PVC cling film side. Is more recycled on the rigid side, so tubes, window frames, and the quantity is about 800, so 700 for about 800 tons per year of PVC rigid film. So our aim is to create a secondary wave to isolate the PVC fraction out of the standard waste, so out of the household waste, and put this fraction into the recycling stream that is actually running, so a little bit on the rigid, more on the rigid side. And this is going to happen. So it's a project that is running. I think the first milestone is this year in June 2021, and the final application of a real standard cycle of PVC fraction will be in 2023. This is the knowledge that we have at the moment.
Okay. Thank you, Dario. Audrey, do you want to add anything?
Yes, maybe Annabi should also answer, because she is actually, you know, been to quite a few recyclers recently, and we spoke the other day, and we are definitely looking at a pilot where we can get the post-consumer film and start testing it with the paper label still intact. So it is starting from scratch, but we are making a start, and we do believe that the technology and the know-how is there. It's just getting it to scale. And I think there was just a question now that Cara's asked. I remember going to a buyback center and seeing a large pile. Is it recycled? And Annabi answered, industrial cling film is being recycled, and it's very popular. So it is in demand. So please remember this, you know, there's a demand for the material. It's the process to get to it. And to get clean material out of households in South Africa is all of us have that challenge. But obviously for cling film, when there's a food contaminant, it is an issue. So it's something that we need to read. That's why we said the wash plant is something we will need to have a look at. Yeah, so there are opportunities. There definitely are. It's just we need to get to them and have the funds to allocate so that we can do this work.
Before we step off the issue of recycling and recyclability, Annabi, I'm going to ask you, Wessel has asked, made a comment. Can someone please clarify the misconception that PVC is worse for the environment than PE? Both are films, both of them end up in the landfill. Is that a valid comment to make, that PVC is worse for the environment than PE film?
Sorry, Monique, was that one for me?
Yes, Annabi, yes, but if you wouldn't mind maybe just weighing in here.
No problem. Good morning, everyone. I think before we can say what is worse, we always have to think, what are we measuring? And often people talk about the life cycle analysis or the LCAs, and it's really not a quick off-the-cuff answer to say the one is better or the other one is worse. because are you comparing apples with apples? I think the standard going point for PVC is that half of it is actually coming from salt. So your raw material usage from a petrochemical point is less for PVC than for polyethylene. If one look at the end of life situation is where the topic is at the moment, neither polyethylene or the multi-layer or the PVC cling film, in other words, the part that's wrapped around our chicken and our sausage and our meats, are currently recycled. And that's purely because of the volumes and how to get it out of the waste stream, as Audrey said numerous times. So Monique, I'm afraid I can't really say the one is worse than the other one, because in my mind, they both have a purpose and they both are being used where they're the best materials.
Okay, brilliant. Let's talk about a different topic. There's been one or two questions about PVC market share. How does PVC compare in terms of market share with polyethylene? And then there's also been a question about other countries banning the use of PVC. Dario, if you could weigh in here, and if there's any of our raw material suppliers or industry experts who also want to talk about market share. How does PVC in South Africa specifically compare with PE?
Okay. Maybe I just can report some of the information that we have about Europe. So I think the market share of PVC is around 60 or 70%, I think, at the moment on the fresh food market. I'm talking about only fresh food application, because there is also MAP, so modified atmosphere, that requires multi-layer and barrier films. So talking about the fresh food application, I would say PVC is around 60 or maybe 70%, 65%. Polyolefin films are present, and but they have a lower market share in our knowledge in I think the European countries that we are facing. I can say there is a slight difference. I also saw the question after. Is the PVC banned? So it's not banned. Maybe I can say in the northern countries, PVC, polyethylene film is preferred as against PVC, because of these environmental I could say characteristics. And we can see a slight difference between the northern countries and the southern Europe countries. So in southern Europe, PVC is much more present. In other countries, I would say they are trying polyethylene as a substitute of PVC, but at the moment the market share is more around 50-50. Maybe in the future will decrease a little bit the PVC fraction in northern countries, but in the southern countries at the moment the market share is that one. This is our knowledge from our side.
Wonderful. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to weigh in on this? Okay. Another question that we got, and this is often a question that we deal with in the plastics industry, and I think highlighting the communication that we need to do in terms of to use the product what it was intended for and fit for purpose, but also intended use. We had a question whether or not PVC can be microwaved. Dario, would you mind?
Yep. Yes. So, okay. PVC, I would say it can be microwaved, but for example, in our what we recommend in our technical data sheet is not to use it in the microwave. We use it normally. We don't use it also in the standard oven because the high temperature can lead to a slight higher migration of substances. So what we recommend is not to use it in the microwave. It can be used, but not in contact with food, for example. So this is what we can say. We allow also our film to be in contact with hot, so is the ready to eat chicken, so roasted chicken. It can be, it can stay at, for example, 70 degrees for 24 hours. So in the market, in the retail shelf, it can be is a kind of oven, but for our knowledge, it's better not to use it in the microwave.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Monique, can I add to that a little bit?
Absolutely. Thank you, George.
Maybe I agree with Dario, and maybe just to put a couple of caveats to that, just to say polymers in general don't absorb microwave frequency radiation. The frequency of radiation in microwave is roughly 2.5 gigahertz and above. So they don't, polymers generally don't absorb the radiation from microwave. They absorb the heat from the article they're in contact with. And there is so the one thing that we insist is obviously that the ingredients are food approved, that the label, that there's several types of film, that the films on the labeling and on the thing says it's microwavable, okay? So those are the sort of caveats that we put in charge. There is a myth to say that when you microwave PVC, it gives off dioxins. Well, that's not true, because it doesn't absorb the radiation. It doesn't get higher than roughly the temperature of boiling water, which is anything from 80 to 100 degrees. It doesn't decompose to give dioxins at that temperature. That requires temperatures of around about 350 degrees. So there's a lot of myths and speculation about PVC, but I do agree with Dario in terms of the way Europe addresses these issues. And yeah, if just to maybe clear that up. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for that. We have a couple of more minutes. Should we open the floor if there are any other questions that you might have, that you might, as you can see, we've got real industry experts here. You're not going to have this opportunity quite soon. Again, we don't know. But while we've got everyone here, if you've got any questions, please unmute yourself and feel free to use this opportunity to pose your question. Okay. No one? Okay. Then it is left to me to only just to say thank you once again for participating, for joining us today. Thank you for the lively discussions. Thank you for the questions that have come through. We will make all the presentations available. We will upload it on SAVA's YouTube channel. And we'll send the links to you. We'll share the links so that you can have a look at this recording as well as the PowerPoint presentations. We will also share the contact details of Audrey and of Dario, but also of the recyclers. If you want to get hold of anyone of a recycler in your area, please make contact with us. There's a lot of things happening. It's a very fluid environment. Things happen and develop and change on a week-by-week basis. So we will keep you updated and posted as things develop. But just for me, just please stay in contact with us. Thank you so much for everyone's participation again. And we look forward to seeing you at the next SAVA webinar. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much, Dario. Thank you, Monique.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.